Welcome to another series of the Human Capital Development powered by coaching and mentoring. We have the oil lady this evening. You'll get to know about her. This is COMETSA Television Network, our video streaming platform. My name is Sam Zimmer. I'm the anchor and co-host with my colleague, Coach George Mutenda Zamera, who will greet you just now. This is the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle we call the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. This particular series is dedicated to the practicing coaches and mentors. We want to hear from them how they power the human capital development. And today we're going to hear one such colleague that is passionate about capacitating other people out there through coaching, mentoring, advisory, you name it. George, my friend, welcome.
Thank you very much, Sam. And today we are very honored to have our very own Nomvuyo sharing her life and successes with everyone. As you can see, my name is George Mutenda Zamera. I'm the founder and CEO at Vula Law Consulting. I'm an executive and leadership coach, facilitator, a speaker, an author, and a friend of Nomvuyo, who I am really, really proud to see her doing extremely well. So I was saying to Sam earlier on, I'm the happiest and proudest of friends today because of her success. So well done. And please share with the audience today your steps, the things you have done, what has inspired you, your goals for the future. Yeah, it's power-packed tonight. So Thank you very much for joining us. And for all our listeners out there, thank you for joining us again. We learn and you learn, and that's how we benefit each other. It's a mutual benefit as we go through these programs. So thank you very much.
Indeed, George. We're talking about unleashing or unleash prosperity in Africa. That's the title of her book. I was saying to her earlier on, George, that I missed the launch of the book in Soweto at Villagas Street. So she's going to have to replay that for us. Today is our opportunity to hear more about the unleashing of prosperity in Africa. I wanted to think of the theme for our conversation. And when I received the profile of Nomvuyo, I said, but this is it. I don't even have to go and put any script together. We're just going to base our conversations on her profile, which is nicely and beautifully written. I don't know, George, as you were going through it, which themes were standing up. But obviously, we've got to talk about the book and why unleashing prosperity in Africa. Perhaps let's allow Nomvuyo to greet our viewers and tell them where she hails from. Over to you, Nomvuyo. Thank you very much for honoring us with your presence this evening.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to all the viewers. I feel very comfortable, sandwiched between two people that I know, people that I admire. And George, I remember when I started writing the book, and I was saying, George this, George that, and then he just said, "Oh, please, just write." just write as it comes, because I wanted to. She said, "Just write," and I did. Thank you, George. Thank you so much. You were part of the inspiration. I mean, you published your book just, as we were being friends and working together. and holding each other accountable.
There you go.
And
You need an
happy
accountability partner in your business. Remember that.
So, and thank you for that, because you are part of the inspiration. So I
Beautiful.
call myself the oil lady, and most people ask if I have an oil business, and I say yes. I am in the oil business, but the oil I work with is the inner greatness of my clients. That's the oil I work with, and my purpose is to help them discover, multiply, and share their oil so that they can grow and prosper. So as coaches, you understand that exactly what I'm talking about. So the oil I'm talking about really is the inner greatness that is that we all have. And it inspired my company, BizOil Institute. It inspired the book itself, as you will hear about it. And so besides owning a BizOil Institute, where really I'm about creating programs that have three main aims. Transforming mindsets, igniting purpose, and unleashing prosperity. So those are the three things that drive me. Those are my drivers in life, because that's my purpose. So I create programs that do that. And I'm also a director at Entrepreneurial Planning Institute, and where we play a role in the ecosystem, a role that you are actually playing now, capacitating mentors and coaches to be better, especially in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. There are challenges there. So our focus is on the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Let's strengthen that part so that because that speaks to the quality of entrepreneurs that we are going to create. Yeah, so that's it.
Wow.
Mhm.
Sure. I'm sitting here and thinking, which of these accolades do we start with? And I'm looking at the headline, the oil lady entrepreneur, business mentor, educator, speaker, author of Unleash Prosperity in Africa. That from the menu. That's my choice, but I'm not going to dictate. George, which of these accolades you will want to start with, and I'll reserve my choice of Unleash Prosperity in Africa for later, and that's going to be the main focus anyway.
Yeah, I would have thought talking about the book is a good starting point, but and then we can wind back as to where does that come from actually, because that is what brought Nomvuyo to, shall we say, world attention.
Yeah.
You and me knew Nomvuyo, but the world didn't quite know her. Then she publishes a book. The whole world says, "Hey, who is this?" And so maybe let's start there and then go backwards so that people get to know where's the foundation of all this.
Yes, absolutely. What led to you to thinking about writing the book and title it "Author of Unleashed Prosperity in Africa"? The composers of song tell us that they wake up in the middle of the night, they dream a song and they write it. So how did yours come about?
Or in the shower.
No, that it didn't happen like that at all. And fortunately, this is a coaching book. So in talking about the book, we'll be talking about coaching. We'll be talking about entrepreneurship. We'll be talking about leadership. So it's all encapsulated in that. So thinking about the book, let me start with just this very first page this very thing on chapter 1. It's a quote by Mampele Rampele, and she says, "We cannot successfully navigate uncharted waters without some script to guide us. We have to find a script, a narrative to live by, because all other scripts are likely to depict us in roles that fit the conventional stereotypes." So I felt that we need a new script. And I don't know where to start with the script. But I think I want to start it at the beginning. Sometimes it helps to start at the beginning.
Take us through the journey of starting and finishing this book. Maybe that will help.
Yeah. So I start with the story starts when I have a business many years ago. I had a business. In actual fact, at that time, I had 3 branches of that business. And 2 of those branches are in the townships. One is in Bryanston. So the first time I get there, I look at everything just looks, so I'll use the word Lani. So I decide, those 2 businesses are insured. This one, I'm not going to insure. And unfortunately, they call it Murphy's Law. Murphy's Law. So unfortunately, a fire broke down on that business, that particular one, that was not insured. I lose everything in that business. At that time, it was R1 million. And for then, R1 million was a lot of money.
Right.
It was a lot of money. And imagine you lose that, but you also lose the equipment and everything. So you have to start again from now, even more debt than you originally had. So that was the transformation part for me, because in seeking solutions, one of the courses that I went for was a course about purpose. And incidentally, in seeking purpose, I got to find coaching.
Wow.
But in seeking purpose, as I was still studying, then I was studying coaching. It took me a long time to be clear about what my purpose is, until I came across this story that made me today call myself the oil lady. This story on which this book is based. This story on which BizOil Institute is based. So as I was seeking purpose, I come across this story. And it's a story that both of you, I know, definitely know. It's a story of the widow with oil. And this is a story of a woman who moves from poverty to prosperity, from desperation, from being a victim. She moves into being a person who stands up and finds solutions. But in that story, there are so many principles that I learned. And the book is about that. So here was this woman. She was in debt. And the creditors were going to take her children. from her if she doesn't pay debt. Then she goes to this prophet, and I'm as I was reading that book, that story, I'm fascinated by this prophet, because the prophet, to me, is actually a coach. You know most what coaching is about. It's about asking questions. So he asks a question. He asks a powerful question. How can I help you? That's the first question. And then the next question, what do you have in your house? Those are coaching questions. And so I really resonate with that. Remember, now I've decided I'm a coach. So that is why that story resonated with me. But that's not the only thing. Remember, I was in debt because of the business. So this woman was in debt. This woman was a widow. My mother was a widow. So I could really relate to her, to that story. So that was a powerful story. So I was going to write the book about the story. But then, sure, it occurs to me that Africa is in debt. Just like that woman, Africa is in debt. Just like that woman, Africa is poor. Just like that woman, Africa is the mother continent. So then I realized that I cannot just talk about it without putting it in the context of Africa. So as I write...
at this time, have we found our purpose, or are we still looking for our purpose as we write the book?
No, my purpose there was clarified. Oh, thank you. Because I'm writing the book 10 years later.
I see.
Yes.
The reflection.
Yes. So when I found the story, it just cemented my purpose. This is your purpose. Your purpose is to help people move out of poverty into prosperity. Your purpose is to get them to find the oil inside of them. So that is my purpose. My purpose is to help them see. My purpose is to help them ask the question, what do you have? And let's work with that so that they can prosper. So when I found it, then it defined my purpose. But then now I am writing the book. When I'm writing the book, that's where now it is then now it has to be about Africa, because then I realized that Africa is in a situation that is very pivotal. How come? How come we are the wealthiest continent and yet the poorest? How come
Powerful.
that so many things are not working right, but more than anything is, how do we get out of it? How do we get out of the state that we are at? So I look at the situation in Africa, I read about it, I realize that so many of our countries, the countries in Africa, are poor. I look at our own situation in South Africa. I mean, right now as we speak, our debt is 75 whatever percent of GDP, just right now as we speak, in South Africa. And South Africa is supposed to be better developed than many other countries in Africa. So we are in a situation that is, I believe it is pivotal. It is pivotal because we have a youth. I mean, they say in 2050, I think. I mean, just right now, I think over 60% of our population is below age 25. I'm not sure of that statistic exactly, but around there. And it is predicted that a third of the world's population will be African. So we have a big young population. Now, this
which
young
on its own is also an opportunity.
Yes, that is why the word pivotal. It can be a threat, it can be an opportunity. If we don't handle it well, it's a threat. Right now, with almost 60% of South African youth between age 15 and 24 being unemployed, how do we change that? Right now. So what I realized is that as I'm writing the book, now it was so difficult, eh? Because now I'm reading more about poverty. I realize that poverty is multidimensional, that it is not just not having money. Poverty is multidimensional, that every part of society has to work for us to get out of poverty. So it is not just me and my clients. Now it's a bigger thing.
Yeah.
And it's not just South Africa, because even if South Africa were to be stronger, in actual fact, the stronger South Africa would be, the more other countries in the continent will come so that they survive. So it can't just be silos of countries. We have to rise together.
So tell me, Nomvuyo, which target group will you say your book is about?
So the target group, it's not only entrepreneurs, and it's not only intrapreneurs. Basically, for me, it is people who want to make a difference. That is the only thing. People who want to make a difference. And we're saying, okay, I coined a term called Afritenergy. And Afritenergy is Africa Maternal Energy. Let us have a script. Mampele Rampele spoke about a script. Let us have a script that brings us together so that we can all focus, those of us who want to. Of course, there are people who are not interested, so, but those of us who are interested, let us come together and focus on how to do this. How do we get Africa from threat to opportunity, and take that opportunity and really harness and leverage it? How? So I coined a term, Afritenergy. So those principles that I learned are the principles of Afritenergy. We needed a term that will just bring us together, and that will, regardless of creed, regardless of race, regardless of gender. So just a term that will bring us together as a collective, and we say, you know what, this thing that we are wanting to do is called Afritenergy.
Wow, let me read it for the viewers because I'm looking at the paragraph that speak to that as you speak. And thanks for defining that. I actually missed it earlier on. You've written here, a passionate advocate for Africa's prosperity, Nomvuyo developed Afritenergy, a concept that unites Africans in the mission to transform poverty into prosperity. That is a rallying call, George.
Yes.
That is indeed. And I think the book comes at an opportune time. I've been doing articles, if you notice them, on LinkedIn and Facebook, on the upcoming, what is called ACAS conference, that is African Caribbean Achievers Summit in May. And the whole purpose of this is to say, yes, we are no longer going to get aid. It is a negative, but it's a positive, because we can come together as Africans and Caribbean and reimagine our future, recreate our destiny, not based on generosity of other countries, but based on the wealth that we have. And so the book comes in at a real opportune time. And if I could just comment on what the figures that she talked about, it said that the median age of Africa by 2075 will be 30 years. That's young. Europe will be 48. East Asia will be 59. And the population of Africa by that time will be about 32 point something, nearly a third of the whole world. So a third of the world is Africa. And so the opportunities to grow and dominate the world are huge. But it starts with the mind. And thank you very much, Nomvuyo, for really focusing on this. It's about a mindset.
There is an implied connection here, Nomvuyo. You started by sharing with us a painful story of a failure in terms of unfortunate decision you took of not insuring your business as an entrepreneur, and that has actually galvanized you to want to write about it or share the story with it. But when I look at into detail your profile, there is an emphasis on entrepreneurship development or entrepreneurship support. The two terms or two organizations that stand out is the support organizations, ESOs, Entrepreneurial Support Organizations, ESOs, and then entrepreneurs supporting entrepreneurs, ESEs. I don't know where in the book you're going to come to this. I didn't mean to stop you from relating the story. If it's still coming, please say so, but I'm I'm very fascinated about those two. It looks like there's a loaded message or objectives behind those two.
Okay. So we know that so the book does not speak directly to that. However, because as I am working with entrepreneurs, and I realized that we are spending billions on entrepreneurship, but our ROI is not so impressive. Are we doing it right? That was a question. Then we conducted a needs assessment on one of the programs that we ran at Entrepreneurial Planning Institute. And it was a program in Tembisa and Hammanskraal. So as we're doing this needs assessment, and I'm seeing from the results that people see opportunities. Our young people, they see the opportunities, but they're not going after them.
Why is that?
Mindset. Because if for 400 years, those are multiple generations, you've been told that you don't deserve those opportunities. You've been told that you can't, that you are a hewer of wood and drawer of water. Mm-hmm. If for 400 years you have been told that, it's not just going to happen just like that for us to change mindsets. And I hear people, most of us know that it's a mindset issue. However, even when we're teaching about the entrepreneurial mindset, we don't address the generational things that we've gone through. We are not addressing them. We teach the entrepreneurial mindset as if we are teaching it in Europe or in America or anywhere else.
And I will hasten to say that we have our own, very own historical entrepreneurs that we had ignored. There was some era of the Habagukus of this world, the in Soweto. You grew up in Soweto, right?
Yes.
I mean, during those days when the NAFCOC was formed, it was formed by entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Then. And when did we lose that? I think, when did Ndatem Ntonyane passed on?
Not long ago, hey?
Yeah.
I think,
yeah. I'm just responding to the point you are raising, that there is there's generational things we are not reflecting on, and I thought you will try to hook into that. When did we lose it?
Yes, when did we lose it? And I think even then, how we normally think of it, when we have because what we have is a poverty mindset. And it's a poverty mindset that has been engineered. The word is engineered. It has been engineered into us. It has been deliberately engineered in us. So it has to be deliberately unengineered, or rather, we have to deliberately engineer prosperity.
Yeah. And I hear you implying that the book is trying to address that.
Yes.
So what are the things that I know you? I mean, people have to read the book to be able to ultimately get the story. But when people read the story, what do you want them to look for? Or which chapters must they look to For what reasons?
Wow. Whew. Actually, there is no chapter that I would say is not important. Just yesterday, I was speaking with I was coaching two people, and we ended up talking about value. That one of the poverty mindset things that have happened to Black people is that we don't recognize value. That is why you'd find us, the way we spend money on things that are not valuable, that don't have much return on investment, because we don't understand value. And part of a survival mindset, and which is why, again, we speak of, when you speak of entrepreneurship, so many of the entrepreneurs are survivalists. And there is a, once you are in a survival mindset, you cannot see, there are certain things that you cannot see. Once you are busy thinking surviving, we know, I mean, we are coaches. When you are in a survival mindset, there are certain things that you are not going to see. And you can't even be resilient, because all you are looking for is, what can I eat now? What can I eat? What can I eat now?
I think
So,
you were Nomvuyo, you were part of the last month's conversation, and I think you are hooking onto a number of points we raised there. And what I like is that repeating these points hopefully helps us to deal with them, because you're saying that they were engineered into us and they have to be engineered out of us. It's almost like first things first. Let's get the right kind of mindset before we even embark on an entrepreneurial journey. Because if we don't do that, they are going to drag us down. And now the question is, from a coaching point of view, how do we go about that? Do we aim at those who are already decided to start enterprises and then pick them up and support them? Or do we go and cultivate a desire in the minds of people earlier on to want to become entrepreneurs? Or do we do both?
okay. In my previous life, I was a teacher. So as a teacher, we learned about, when I was training to be a teacher, doing a higher diploma in education, what we learned are the systems, the education systems. So, and I'm sure you know how the Afrikaners had failed schools where they were teaching, and it is sad, but they were engineering hatred. They were teaching Afrikaners that about the swart gevaar, that Black people are dangerous, Black people are stupid, and they are the ones who are better. What I'm saying there is that they had camps to teach young people at schools. And I believe that we need to do that too. We need to go to schools. I don't know, for you, Sam, when were you politicized? But I was politicized in a school by a teacher who was teaching history. And in a history class, he would then speak about the situations which at that time were not supposed to be taught in class. But he took that opportunity and taught about the true history. So we we need to start, and I call it an enterprising mindset, because I don't want to say entrepreneur, because I accept that we are not all going to be entrepreneurs, but we need to be enterprising. We need to be able to take something and build something out of it, whether we are in a corporate or in our own businesses, but we need to be enterprising. So I believe that Afrikanergy must start from schools.
So you're touching on education there, and I guess that is another discussion. How do we factor these things into education? Because we've been talking about entrepreneurial mindset, and we've been saying that we must teach young people entrepreneurship very early in their education. But what is needed, other than suggesting a syllabus on entrepreneurship? What practical things are there for us to do so that entrepreneurship is not something that you postpone until you finish school, but it's something that you're born into it, and you become that enterprising that you're talking about? George, and by the way, George is very passionate about this being a Central Africa issue. Maybe now we are coming a little bit more to South Africa, but let's put it broadly. What is an African agenda of actually making Africa transition, unleash this prosperity that she explained? She says that Afrikanergy is a concept that should unite Africans in the mission to transform from poverty into prosperity. This does not disadvantage anybody. It just says that this is a new philosophy that we must drive, and anybody else must support it. And then from our country to country, we must deal with the realities of our local places. But at the highest level, there's this agenda where Africa has to become there for itself. And maybe, George, without hijacking the slot for Nomvuyo, tell us about that conference that you just mentioned earlier on. It looks like it speaks to this Africanity.
Yes, it does. The Africa Caribbean Achievers Summit will be held in May in Barbados, and the Prime Minister of Barbados will speak, and there will be many luminaries there. But the point about that is to say it comes at this opportune time where we won't have money from donors. And it's a great opportunity not to have that money. Because then, as Africans and Caribbeans, we are put in a situation where we have to recreate and reimagine the future. We know what our value is, but we have never bothered to go and look for it. Because why? Money has always been coming from someone who gave it to you. And addressing the issue around children, our mindset has always been, we are not, our sense of self-worth has never been very high. And so this conference will talk around the economics, etc. But the key point which has been raised is to say, as a child is growing up in Africa and the Caribbean, we must instill in them a sense of self-worth, a sense that says, I am somebody. I remember in the 1950s, there was a pastor in the United States. He wrote lyrics for saying, I am somebody. It then became, some people have sung about it. But being somebody, so you see, you can't outperform your self-image. You can't outperform who you think you are. It doesn't matter what you put on, gold chains and all these things. If you think you are not worthy, you will never outperform that. And so what we need to do is to instill in those kids self-worth, a belief that says, I am somebody, I can create, I can make something different from what is here today. And so when they begin to believe that, then they can go out and take over the world. They can build businesses. They can be great academics. But it starts from them believing that they are somebody. And us as the leaders and African parents, that's our role, to affirm kids, to tell them you are somebody, to tell them that in you is greatness, in you is oil, and that oil comes out.
And tell the stories like the book is trying to do. And I'm sure your main objective was not to demoralize anybody, was to say, we have done these mistakes, don't repeat them. We are here as coaches now.
Yeah.
We use the stories to help you not to repeat them so that you can build on our lessons, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I remember just yesterday, someone says to me, it's easy for you to say because you have a comfortable life. And then I had to tell him. That's why actually I started with the story today. Because for some people, it's like, you don't know what I'm going through. You don't know. You've never been where I am. That victim mentality. No, you don't understand. You've never been where I am. And to say, no, I definitely understand because I have been there. One of the chapters that I love, it's that chapter of the poverty mindset. When that widow says, I have nothing. Because we need to unpack how the poverty mindset shows up. And I have it's a story. So when we were young, I am one of 6 children. So when we were young, my parents, instead of buying us slippers and shoes, they would buy us thongs. I mean, it makes sense. It's practical. It's affordable. There's a shoe that you can wear inside, in the house, and outside. Now, let me take you to Mother's Day 3 years ago. Not long ago, eh? Mother's Day 3 years ago. I decided to buy slippers for my mother. And as I'm buying slippers, I'm realizing, hey, Batu, I've never bought slippers for myself. I've never bought slippers for myself. I've bought slippers for other people, but never for myself. Why?
Loving kindness missing, or what?
No, because what George was saying, because I was taught that I don't deserve slippers.
You haven't unlearned that embracing of that message.
Yes. Now see how it's a mindset. I mean, it's a petty thing. Slippers. I mean, how much are slippers really? It's a petty thing, but I'm sharing that story to show that how a poverty mindset can develop as easily. I mean, I'm not accusing my parents, or it was not wrong. It was a practical thing to do. However, it landed to a child as if, no, you don't deserve. You are not worthy of slippers. You don't have money for slippers.
Now, let me ask you and George. I mean, 3 of us are executive coaches, or coaches, let me put it that way, in general. Isn't this challenge also falling on our laps as coaches to address this when we are given the opportunity to partner with whoever we are coaching, especially the young and upcoming executives and entrepreneurs? even though we know that the agenda is not ours. But it looks like there's a bigger calling up there that perhaps we need to create the opportunity for it to become an agenda in our one-on-one or team coaching groups.
Sam, one of the programs I share with people is understanding what we call paradigms. And the paradigm is a composite of all your experiences, your values, everything that went into your head as you grew up. And that makes you who you are, Sam, today. Within that, there's great things. Within that, there's terrible and negative things. It's for you then, as you grow, to choose which ones are still relevant and will add value to you as you go. So that's where the role of the coach comes in. Not to tell somebody to say, this doesn't work for you, but to ask the question that this is your background. These are the things that you carry with you. Of those, which ones are relevant to you today? Which ones will carry you forward to become a better person? Because once you open that door to that reflection, the individual is going to sit back on themselves and say, yeah, actually, I have all these things, but which ones are actually still relevant? And can I just touch on something that I find very important to talk about? And it's very controversial in a way. And it is when we're talking about the Africa Caribbean Conference and what have you, we are saying, if you call Africa your home, doesn't matter whether your color, whether you're green or yellow, if you call Africa your home and you want to be part of this continent, show up and contribute. Because we don't want to go into reverse to a system that we despised, a system that is segregated. The new system doesn't. The new system says, do you call this place home? If your answer is yes, then get on the plane and sit down and show me what you have to add to this.
And am I right also to say that what is implied by this conference is that you don't necessarily to be physically in Africa to be with Africa?
Yes.
You can be from anywhere, Sam. As long as your goal is to see the growth and development of Africa and the Caribbeans. Because ultimately, Stephen Covey says, start with the end in mind, right? What is the end in mind? We want to see prosperity. We want to see per capita income going up. That's the end in mind. So how do we work backwards?
George, can I take you back into the 80s, not even 80s, I think the 90s. I still remember very well that there was this famous concept called Africa, the next frontier.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I'm still asking myself, what happened? And then there was this, and then they said there's Africa, one of the fastest emerging growing markets. Now I hear people say, Africa, the youngest continent, the future. And I hear somebody say, Africa will overtake everybody because of technology that's going to accelerate us in there. Is there something about lack of consistency or lack of integration of this concept? Or is it the same thing, just called something different? And I think I'm asking this specifically to coaches, because coaches, we are told that we've got to be very fully present with ourselves and our clients as we're coaching. And we've got to look at the perspective to build on. Why are we not building on these things and we just keep on throwing new concepts? Now there's a common market that is growing. I'm very fearful that 50 years from now, we might still be talking about the common market and it will not happen. And what are the coaching saying to things that get said and not done?
Yeah.
I know we're deviating away from the book, but I think we are broadening the conversation because somebody has to
Yeah.
start it.
Can I just say, there's an old saying that says, where there is a will, there is a way. Africa has the way is there. The question is the will. And this is where Nomvuyo's point comes in about educating people, creating awareness, driving, because somebody has to champion those things. So as long as you're getting aid to do this, aid to build a clinic, aid to do that, there's no incentive for you to get up at 4 in the morning to do something. But if you don't have the money and you know you have to do it, that's where the will comes in.
Yeah.
And so,
And you know what I like? Sorry, George. And what I
Carry on.
like about looking at the profile of Nomvuyo, the book is just there to start the conversation. But when then you look into the things she does, you can actually see the connection between what she's talking about in the book and what she is doing. And what I'm actually wanting to say is having frameworks and policies and all these things, they're going to remain nice for as long as there is no evidence of George then demonstrating something that he's doing to support the theories and the concepts and the policies that he's put advancing. And for that, I really want to take my hat off to Nomvuyo, because we only get started to hear about her work when she launched the book, but she started years ago from what she's saying.
Yes. Yes.
So Africa has Vision 2063 by the African Union. It's a beautiful vision. Most Africans don't know it. We have in South Africa, we have the National Development Plans. It's beautiful. I mean, you read that, but most people don't know it. When we are creating our own goals, and do we include our extended family? Yes, we include our family, but are we on a me, myself, and I thing? Are we including our community? What's your vision for your community? When we talk, so what you said, Sam, we can have all the policies and frameworks. However, it will always be one mindset at a time. So I had someone, for example, say, oh, your book is written to individuals. And I said, yes, it is written to individuals, but because even when we coach in organizations, when we coach in government, what we are aiming for is that individual who's going to get it, isn't it? Because transformation happens one person at a time. It may be a culture that we change, but it will always be one mindset at a time.
And we are not suggesting that policies and guidelines are not needed. It's very important, because otherwise you will have chaos. But there need to be those who say, now that here is the economic policies and that. Now the implementers needs to take and run with it. We can't expect those who come up with laws and policies to turn around and now to be questioned for why are these things not working. Because the reality is the policies are there for all of us to use to inform our doing. And I think, again, using Nomvuyo as an example, I think we need also to challenge those of us who are supposed to be the doers. If we're sitting and we're now repeating these policies, quoting them, the question as coaches must say, what have you done to translate it into actions And who are you helping and supporting to then make it materialize? So
Yes.
that those who are specialists forming laws focus on forming laws informed by our experiences on the ground. When we say, Norman, that law is not working because I tried to do it, it's not working, please change it.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm.
You
That's right.
understand? I
Mm.
think that for me, as coaches, we need to play that role. You mentioned the word holding people accountable. That's basically that. So have you done that, what you said you're going to do in the last session?
Yes.
And I
And
think you did imply that the book is written for coaches. And I guess you say it's written for coaches to use it to support those who are their clients, not just to read it and be happy.
no, it is a coaching book, not to coaches, but whoever is
Oh, I see.
reading it will be
Whoever they
coached.
need.
Yeah, through the book.
Okay.
Whoever is reading it will be coached. So,
I see.
so just going back a little bit to Afritenergy. So, because it's a maternal energy, né? And what do we know about a maternal energy? We know that it is nurturing, it is caring and supportive, but also the main thing about maternal energy is sacrifice. That's the main thing. And we see, yes, mostly it's women who have maternal energy, but we see it in the book that it's not only women who have maternal energy. We see it in the coach who was asking the question, what do you have in your house? He was exhibiting maternal energy. So maternal energy is sacrificial. Remember what the previous lady was talking about. She said something that was profound for me. She said, we are a sandwich generation. Remember?
Yes.
She said we are a sandwich generation. And she is so right. Because the generation before us were poor. We were able to come up a bit into the middle class, but the generation after us, because of what is happening, is poorer than us. That is what is making us the sandwich generation. But that also is what is making us to have to sacrifice. We have to sacrifice. We cannot, if Africa is going to change, we have to sacrifice.
Right.
We cannot be complacent. We cannot say put our heads like thingy, put our heads like ostriches, put our heads in the sand.
Put it in the right context. Put it in the context for us. What kind of sacrifice do you think we need to?
So the sacrifices that I'm talking about is even that simple thing of, okay, what can I do for my extended family? What can I do for my extended family? What can I do for my community? We have to sacrifice. That's one way. But remember also, we are scared to speak truth to power. Remember, it takes sacrifice to do that. It's not just courage, it takes sacrifice. One woman was killed just last week for having spoken truth to power. So the way I see it, we are at that age before, that is in South Africa, we are at that age before 1994, When we sacrificed then, now we have to sacrifice again for a better future. In corporates, we have to challenge certain things.
Wow. The message is loud and clear. Yeah, and I guess that prosperity in Africa is something that is not going to come just easily. And I guess when you say we, that means everybody else, as George said, everybody else that says is for Africa, this to sacrifice. There will be degrees of sacrifices. And I hear you now saying that even those who are in corporate, they can't sit there and enjoy the titles because the work is not done. And I guess this platform, which we're dedicating it to coaches and mentors, is meant for that as well. I mean, initially I looked at it as the platform where we come and question ourselves as coaches, what we are doing about the challenges that our clients are bringing, but at the same time, to develop ourselves to be able to deliver what is our challenge, our duties. But I guess also to start the discourse. I mean to launch the journey as you've done.
Yes.
Yes. I think with coaching, there are two aspects of coaching that really dovetail with what she is doing. And we say in coaching, it's self-directed. It's less self-directed learning. I ask questions, somewhere inside you find the answers, and on we go as a coach. And that's what the book is doing. But there's another element to it that is, it's self-directed, but not only is it self-directed, but it is, what's the word I'm using? It's forward-looking, solution-focused.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you are coaching somebody, it's no good saying what's inside of you and end there. It's what's inside of you, and how can we use that to find a solution to what things are happening.
Yeah.
And so as coaches, our role is, as we speak to executives, to leaders, to pose these questions so that when they go away in their quiet moments, they're saying, wait a minute, Sam asked me something. Nomvuyo asked me something. How can I use that? How can I find solution? So it's, yes, what is it that you have? But solutions. And that's why I like this book, because it's asking, we have solutions, folks. Where are they? And we have them. It's just that we haven't been put in a corner where we need to drag them out and put them out there. And I think that's where we are now. We're at a point where I think it's a point of inflection, really. It's pivotal, as she said. Because if we miss the boat now and we get back to, oh, here's funds from somewhere, we'll be forever, potential. The kid who goes into grade 1 and potential, and until he leaves. It doesn't, you want them to have potential and then use it. And that's where we are.
So as mindset,
sorry.
As mindset coaches, we know that the brain wants to be comfortable. Even when things are hot, the brain wants to keep the status quo. It wants to do the things the same all the time, because that's what it's designed for. Apply minimal effort and get the results, even if the results are painful. So the part of the sacrifice is just making people aware and making them see a different future. that pain and pleasure dynamic. We need to be aware of that and help people be aware that there's potential for pleasure, there's a potential for opportunity, but there's also a risk. There's a threat here if we don't do right.
Will you say that now that you have written the book, it has addressed what you wanted to address, and then what's next?
What's next for me? I want to take the book into research, evidence, apply this that I'm talking about, and apply it in an environment, and then find evidence that it works. So that's what I'm busy with at the moment. Turning the book into research, participatory research, action research, and so that when we speak of this Afro-Energy, there is evidence. We can say it's been piloted, this is what works, and this is what doesn't work. So I am planning to implement a training coaching program, and at a church. I want to start at a church. And simply because within a closed culture, it's easier to monitor certain things within a closed environment.
I like that approach because often we write books and then we move on. We write a second book. We move on, write a third book. Meanwhile, certain books like yours, they are almost like a project.
Yes.
And in that way, you keep on, because these concepts are there. You keep on refining them. I like a number of authors when they've really found it, what it is that really is making humanity not to move forward. They just don't move. There will be version 1, version 2. There will be a little bit more evidence brought in, and I do see that aspect listening to you in your book. That actually it's a project, and I'm glad you're actually thinking of actually turning it into some learning material of some sort. That is encouraging, because it started you telling your story. Now the story is packaged in the book. Now you want to convert it into tools and that can be used to then address those issues that it raises. I mean, the point you are raising about the mindset that we were brought up in. Now that you've highlighted them, how do we address it?
Yes.
And maybe even invite others to take it further.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. I really would like to see that and be saying, okay, because these are principles, and principles are timeless. Principles apply anyway. So let's take these principles and apply them. What comes out when we apply them in schools? What comes out when we apply them in corporate? What comes out? When we apply them in entrepreneurship, what comes out? I know that for some people, it's very uncomfortable to talk about our past. There are many people who feel, no, and they will say, oh, you are talking about the growth mindset. No, I'm not. It is part of it, but it is simply saying, let us understand where we come from and heal from that, and create that growth mindset, prosperity mindset, and cultivate it. But we have to understand where we come from. We can't just put icing on a cake when we don't know, when we know very well that that cake is not fine.
You
And I
know,
think
George will remember very well when we were reviewing my book. I did share with many of my colleagues that were helping us reviewing the book chapter by chapter that only after writing the book, I could understand why the book was so heavy. And then I felt like I was actually healing myself. I didn't even know. There were certain things in me that were kept in me, but I was not even aware. And I felt like it was the best thing that has happened to me because I healed from the things that I didn't even know that I was suffering from. But I bottled so much to succeed. In that succeeding, I was embedding a lot of pain. And only after writing the book, I felt relieved that, like, I even told people that the way I felt tired after writing that book, it was going to take me so long to write another book. But only to find that no, when I arrived at the last chapter and then I published the book, I felt like, because I read my book more than 5 times. And every time I was writing the book, I was like going back to the deep rural Skukune, where I grew up as a head boy, and now being comfortable to deal with what I was not even know that it was a burdensome something.
yes.
I don't know whether you feel that way, Nomvuyo, and I want to invite other people to sometimes writing the book on your journey is very much self-empowering or self-healing, journey of self-discovery. How do you feel about it?
Oh, yes, very true. And in actual fact, I think writing a book takes you on a healing journey. I mean, this book took me on a healing journey, but it took me on, it opened, not only healed me, but it opened my eyes. Remember, I never thought of writing about Africa. That was not my mission. But as I got to research on poverty, the first chapter on the first line, the first not chapter, the first section on poverty speaks of the pornography of poverty. And from little things like when your grandmother says, "Eat your food. The children in Africa are poor." those funny things, but you realize that the impression that we have of Africa is not good.
But are we shameful? Are you saying we are shameful of nakedness of that poverty that we just wish it away and yet it doesn't go away?
Maybe it scares us. Maybe we are ashamed. We are scared. We are overwhelmed. Maybe we are overwhelmed. We don't know where to start.
We are not acknowledging that it is a problem. I mean,
Yes.
it is an issue.
Yes. And yet it's the world's number one problem. SDG, Sustainable Development Goal number 1. The world's biggest problem is poverty in Africa.
How does somebody that has liberated themselves from poverty behave? Do they say, "Oh, I made it now. I'm never going to talk about poverty now. I move on"? Or how should they behave?
Sam,
Yeah.
this is a very, very complex subject. Because when we talk poverty, we're talking financial means. But there's a poverty of the mind. For me, that's even more oppressive than poverty of financial poverty. I can go without food. I can go. But if my mind is empty, without value of myself, without value about who I am, you can give me as much money as you want. I'm still poverty stricken.
Yes.
And so I think the front for Africa and the Caribbean is to attack not just the mentality that talks about money, because we make money a god, but it isn't. Money is a means to the well-being of people.
Or it's a
And
measure,
once you
it's just a measure of the outcome of
yes.
effort.
Yeah,
I see Siabonga has actually put something in the chat there, and I kept on wanting to go back to it. It says, oh yes, this embedded, that is Siabonga Matolo. He says, oh yes, these embedded beliefs being told you do not deserve this. And I think that was the time when you were talking about poverty mindset. And he acknowledges that it's good that we touch on this.
Hi, Siabonga.
Yeah. I guess what we are saying is we don't want to bask in the past and in our poverty. We want to progress, but we don't want to ignore the fact that it is what we come from. And it is still there in Africa, and it's stopping us from progressing. Yeah. And we need to get out of that.
Yes. We want, just like you had to heal from what you went through in Sikukuni. And now you are whole, and you can face life from a healed perspective. We want the future of Africa to be like that. Let's heal, but let us also understand.
So what do you say to people? Sorry for interrupting. What do you say to people that these Africans, they can never move forward? They keep on going back. That's why they are not progressing. What do you say to people that will blame you for that?
Yeah, what I would say, and there are many. What I would say is they are speaking from a position of lack of empathy. They don't understand mindsets. They don't understand trauma. In actual fact, today in America, how many years after slavery? Today in America, what is happening amongst the Black population in America? There are studies that have been done to see the impact of racism on people more than 100 years later.
Yep.
Still the impact, still the self-hate among Black people. So you can say that, but you are talking from a point of not knowing. There is it's called transgenerational trauma. And by the way, it's not only in Africans. And it's been found not only in Africans. It is there in many communities that have gone through trauma.
Yeah.
So there is transgenerational trauma, and we cannot.
That's why in other societies, there are museums and there are institutions that are created to keep on reminding people so that they can talk about it, and that way you actually you get, I don't know, we talk about the healing, but you are able to move on, but it doesn't mean that you forget about it, right? I don't know. And sometimes it's some people say, no, you're holding us back, reminding us our there were struggles, but
So,
sometimes it's
yeah.
good to reflect and then move forward. I'm mindful of time, George and Nomvuyo. I think we've got the gist of what your book is all about. I think it's about forward looking. It's about moving forward because it talks
Yes.
about unleash prosperity in Africa. It's positive in a way, but it acknowledges that we need to know where we come from. That's what
Yeah.
I'm picking up.
Mhm.
But if you don't mind, please just sum up this discussion for us and recommend to us how do we take it forward from a coaching perspective, because I mean that is the platform we are on right now.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I would like to say is that as coaches, we are in a role of transformation. We
Yeah.
understand transformation best. And I was transformed when I was exposed to coaching. That's why this book is still a coaching. It coaches. My life was transformed. So let us understand our roles as coaches, how impactful it is. And what I'm saying is, and what I'm praying for, let us understand the context that we are in. We are in Africa. We are at a pivotal moment. Even as we do what we do, let us understand that we are at a pivotal moment. Things can go that way or they can go that way. And when we continue coaching, let us take on that Africanergy, that sacrificial love that we put into Africa. I think that's my summary.
Wow. George? Yeah.
Well, as I said earlier, this topic really dovetails with the Africa Caribbean Achievers Summit in May, which is really part one of a long term project of getting African minds together to craft a future. And as coaches, we change lives one conversation at a time,
Yes.
with individuals, with teams. But as we change, we create a movement, an appreciation of who we are as African people and who we are as the potential to be the leaders in the world. Because globally we will be. I guarantee you that we will be. We may not be around when it happens, but we will be. Because you can't have 1/3 of the population that doesn't contribute of global population. So that's where we are headed. Let us get ourselves on our horses and do things today. Put in foundations. Tomorrow, the younger ones will take over and run with it. There's an
Yes.
opportunity. So books like this should be shared generously amongst the young people. Read this book, ask questions, because it is from things like that which they can see with their eyes where the curiosity for tomorrow comes in. So yeah, pretty excited and very happy for Nomvuyo for publishing this book. Well done, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. Thank you for your inspiration. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And Nomvuyo, how do people get hold of you? How did they contribute to a discussion? Where did they get the book from?
Yeah, the book is available on my website, bizoil.coza, www.bizoil.coza. So please, you can order it from them. And if you want to catch up with me on WhatsApp, be comfortable to do so. My number is 060 630 8462. But I'm also quite active on Facebook and LinkedIn, if you want to leave a message there.
And your church, where the discussions are taking place? Where is it?
Unfortunately, the discussions are not taking place at my church, but I'm a member of a group of pastors called Church is Alive International, and we often talk about these things. They give me a platform to talk about Africa.
Wow.
And the role that the church can play.
Amen to that.
Well done.
There is intentionality there, and there's a bigger platforms to engage the wider Africa and the Caribbeans, as George has indicated, that is part of a planning committee that is putting together the conference. George, maybe we need to make time to come and talk about it so that...
I will. In fact, can I just explain why the Caribbean features in this? The African Union has designated Africa into 5 regions, but they have added the diaspora and the Caribbeans as the 6th region.
Okay.
So why? Because they are people of African descent. And so the whole of Caribbeans and the Africans and the diaspora and Africa, we are all part of this movement. And that's why the emphasis, instead of just saying Africa, Africa, it's Africa including the 6th region. And that's why.
Wow, that's progressive indeed. Thank you so much, my dear fellow coaches. I hope our viewers enjoyed this conversation, because I believe the more the coaches talk to each other about the role they play, the more it becomes clearer to those that we claim to be helping. We don't get to talk too much, George, in our coaching sessions, because we focus on the coaches.
Yes. We are present.
This platform that happens on the 3rd Tuesday of every month is for us to get to talk about what we do and the role that we see ourselves playing. And then, of course, as Nomvuyo has done, challenge ourselves to be reflective on the work we do and the bigger challenges of Africa that we need to embrace. I think that's standing out very clear. I've just written here in the promo of this show to say that we have set ourselves as coaches and mentors the objective of partnering with fellow coaches and mentors in our development and growth journeys, by sharing our insights, our stories and experiences through this series. And we have just done that. So the first step is not to claim to know it all, but to work on ourselves as coaches and mentors from self-development point of view. Thank you so much for helping us doing that, Nomvuyo and George and fellow viewers. This was the COMETSA Television Network, our video streaming platform that mobilizes the subject matter experts to come together and address issues that are important to human capital development and humanity at large. This is the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle we call the idea. We inform and entertain, develop and educate, empower and support, associate and network. That's the idea. And let me announce up front that the 3rd Tuesday of April, we're going to have our other fellow coach. She has accepted our invitation, Coach Murungwa Mahamato. You know her very well.
Yes.
She's going to be our guest, and we'll announce the point of conversation, the topic of conversation. But she has accepted to be our guest, and I look forward to engage with her. Most of us, we know each other, but we have never engaged at this level. And the more we do it, the more actually there is substance to our relationship. Thank you so much. And let me also acknowledge the contribution from colleagues on the line. Magda, oh, George, you have, is that your sister, Magda Mutenda Zamera?
That's my wife.
Oh, thank you so much, Magda, for the support.
She's the president of our home.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much, Magda, for being with us. She's saying, well done, Nomvuyo. Thanks all for an inspired discussion. And then, of course, Siabonga Madolo says, we did enjoy. Thank you so much. Well done, Nomvuyo. Indeed. Thank you so much, colleagues. We'll meet you again in the coming month. Colleagues, stay in the studio. Let me say goodbye to the listeners, to the viewers and listeners there. And thank you for being part of the journey.